What I don't like about membership platforms. Kartra. If you've been here before, you already know the drill. If not, welcome to my series on membership platforms where I talk about the parts that people who want you to buy them don't usually mention. I'll be talking about the downsides and potential deal breakers in Kartra. I have sort of a love-hate relationship with Kartra because it does a lot of things really well. It's the most effective page builder I've used to date. Check out my video on Kartra's templates for more on that. It's also great for putting together full marketing campaigns very quickly, on which topic I also have a video. It even has complex options for forms and pop-ups that really make a difference in the overall feel of its pages. Yes, I do also have a video about that, thank you for asking. It's clear that there's a lot to like, and there's a lot that I like about Kartra, but it's also the platform about which I have the most complaints. It doesn't have a reputation of a difficult user interface for nothing. But how often do you actually hear about why that reputation exists? How can you even tell if the person saying that has used the platform? Well, wonder no more, because I plan to put those questions to rest. Let's start off with the page builder. Yes, it has some great features, but it's also super finicky. Anytime you want to edit something, you have to hover over it to bring up the edit options, then move up to click one of those without leaving the area with your mouse, else the box disappear again. Lucky they start you off with tutorials when you first log in, because the interface is far from intuitive. This leads into a pretty glaring issue, which is that there's no autosave on the page builder. Not a big deal by itself, that's pretty normal, but pair that with how it doesn't prompt you to save your work when you go to close a tab, and the potential to time out, losing you whatever progress you made before it went to sleep. This isn't nice. Yes, I do know this from experience. Experiences, actually. Editing text is also a fairly elusive option, and the way you edit line spacing and text size is pretty funky. I usually end up clicking the pencil instead of the big T, resulting in another non-intuitive feature. Lastly, for the editor, there is an undo button, but no redo. I'll just let that sink in for a second. Moving on to campaigns. Kartra requires you to put in almost all details of every aspect of a campaign before you can move to the next step. So you better have the entire picture in mind before you start, including having all the pieces created beforehand, or you're in for one labyrinth of a rabbit hole. When creating forms, sign-in forms, opt-in forms, etc., the same thing applies, and it's a 6-step process that you must go through start to finish every time you edit, even if you just want to change a single option. There's also the weird requirement Kartra has that when someone submits a form, you have to redirect them somewhere after. You can't just have the pop-up window close. As a side note, I don't want this video to go on for ages, so I'm trying to keep it to the highlights of interface issues. There are more than I mention here. These are just my favorites. Speaking of asides and highlights, whereas other platforms commonly offer live chat support, at least during business hours, the highest level of support in Kartra is email. Based on the few experiences I've had dealing with it, I was not impressed. You may or may not get a reply within the week you send a question, and you're less than likely to actually get an answer to your question, though that's just been my experience. And one final favorite I have before I wrap things up is in the email sequence editor. It's a pretty nice editor with sections and templates, and you can even favorite structures to use in other emails. Having so many options, however, means you can spend quite a bit of time designing an email, which leads into the issue. Let's say you've got a link to a video somewhere in there. Maybe you give it a nice thumbnail and everything, so when they click on it, it'll send them to that video on YouTube. Cool, you can do all that, but when you're finishing up the design and accidentally click the thumbnail instead of the button just above it you were aiming for, and it takes you there, you lose everything you just put together. Oof. Right then, so those are my highlights. And here's a list of them, plus a few others if you want them all in the same place. What this information does for you is one of two things. One, you realize Kartra is not for you and eliminate it from your list of potentials, in which case I'd recommend checking out my other What I Don't Like videos to continue the process. Or two, you realize none of these issues is really a big deal to you, in which case Kartra is a great option for you. I'll leave a link that grants a 30-day free trial below for those lucky few. For those who search Ambles On, I'm here to help you find your perfect match too. Check out my other videos comparing popular platforms, and look forward to the intelligent quiz I'm currently designing that will listen to your needs and give you the solution right there. I'll link it below as soon as it's finished. Till then, best of luck to you. I'll catch you next time. This leads into a plitty. It's a real plitty.